Okay, so now we're going to do Ask the Experts. What I'm going to do is I'm going to ask Mike and Graham to come up, and they're going to be our semi-experts. If they can't answer the questions, then we'll put it to the audience. As I'm sure you're aware, we've got lots of very smart people. I've got 3 questions that people have emailed in. We're going to go through those ones first, and if we've got a bit of time, we'll go through some that you guys may have. Okay. And there will be beer afterwards. Okay, so the first question is from John Fleming, is he in the audience? Hi, John. So to give you a bit of a background, John's got a WordPress.com blog that he's had for about 3 years. It uses one-in-one domain name, so that's the domain name place, with WordPress.com. He wants to add advertisements, so he thinks he needs to change his setup. He's seen that One-on-One has a WordPress.org app on their site, but he's a little bit confused as to how to use it. So he's basically asking, is it possible to move 3 years of blog posts from WordPress.com to WordPress.org if you have a domain name held elsewhere like One-on-One? Who wants to answer this?
John, I assume your One-on-One is like, it's like shared hosting. You've got an account with One-on-One, and I believe it is possible. There will be, within your WordPress.com setup, there will be some kind of export functionality, and it will be able to be imported into WordPress.org. What you'll need to do, I think what you're talking about, because I've used some shared hosting in the past, and it's like most of the shared hosting package sort of companies now have like a one-click install, and it will enable you to install WordPress on a hosting area. Presumably that's what you're talking about here. Quite easily, you just need to put in, what the name of the site is, what your the admin email and stuff like that. So in theory, yes, and then you do an export from your WordPress.com file using the WordPress export plugin, and then if you import it in, it should work okay, because it will do the renaming of the various pages and stuff like that. I'm getting nods from various people, so I think there's a general thumbs up around here.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly definitely possible to do. On WordPress, basically 3 steps I would say to do. So first of all, getting it set up on your own hosting. One-on-one, I haven't used it myself, but I'm sure there is just one-click install thing you can do. Second step will be actually just what's the domain name? I use the domain name linked to WordPress.com at the moment. Okay, so obviously through One-on-One, you need to then break that link with them. You'd also then, so the second step would be then to do the exports and importing. So on WordPress.com, go down, I think it's the tools and then import exports. They give you an option, it's £100, they'll do it for you. That really. You just do the export thing, it'll give you the option of an XML file. It's basically just a big file, just download it on your computer. Then you can upload it again and import it into your new installation. So through the first step, get it all set up. So you go for the installation screens, the installation process.
Hang on a second though, if you've got a WordPress.com set up that's your own domain name, okay, so it's not john.wordpress.com, yeah, right. So I think possibly what you might have to do, the first step you will have to do is to do the export, because the export, your current URL for your website is johnfleming.co.uk or something like that, right? And your new website you want to be johnfleming.co.uk. Is that correct?
It's actually, it's a subdomain, it's blog.com.
Okay, so okay, right. So you'll need to do the export first, and then unplug your URL from WordPress.com, because then when you do the import into your new site, you want your new site to be running on the domain name that you want it to be running on, because as a part of the import step, it will actually then figure out all the new sort of domain name bits of the URLs for all your pages. So you'll need to make sure that your new site is running on its new domain name first before you do the import. Otherwise, if you do it when it's not running on that, you'll end up with some unpredictable results there. But,
I'm going to survive family warranties for breaks on your own. The importing, I mean, the export-importing is really straightforward. The thing you may find sometimes images, and I've found in the past, text and the pages and the posts, they should go fine. Images can be a bit iffy, so I just check, and how many posts have you got roughly, or pages?
3 times 365.
Right, okay. So, a little bit of time for that. But yeah, I mean, it should be fairly straightforward really with that. Obviously go through all the setting the screens, just make sure it's set up all okay. The final thing, or maybe do it first if you can run it before you launch it live, would be then just to get your theme set up, and I guess if you're on the .com, you can just find the same theme and download that, and the plugins as well. And Jetpack is, you'll get the same functionality as you have on .com, more or less, like the same familiar features. Good luck.
Emmanuel, behind you, Mark Winalco.
PHP has a limit of time. Most of the time the share host has a limit of 30 seconds and a limit of memory on PHP. So most of the time you don't get images because of the memory limits or the time limit. So what I suggest for you to do is, or try to export and import one category by one category. Then on wp-config you can add more memory to your WordPress. So go in there, you can access to your wp-config, add some memory, at least 128 megabytes, and try to import one category by one, just not all posts together, because otherwise you will not get them at all.
Just one very quick thing to add on the same point actually. A lot of shared hosting gives you a 2 megabytes upload limit, which is a ridiculously small limit when most pictures now are about 5 or 6 meg. You can do it with a PHP ini file, there's ways of doing that, but I'm not sure how one will set it up by default. But the good thing with WordPress, because it's such a big ecosystem, I would probably suggest just doing a quick Google as well, just to give yourself some kind of printed guidelines as well, or give it on the screen just to follow that as well. But it does sound complicated, it really isn't. It is quite a straightforward process.
Yeah, it's super easy if your WordPress has unlimited memory, unlimited timeout on PHP, but otherwise you will get issues. But also for what he said about the update limit, you can change it on wp-config as well, because you can do with PHP unisec upload limit and change the limit by your own.
that's assuming that one-on-one lets you do that. You might have to check
Yeah,
with them.
if you use the one-click update, one-click install, maybe not, because obviously just they have access to your file system. But you buy the file system and the access to your database, maybe you have access also to your file system, so to the wp-config as well.
You could suggest something. Instead of going to...
Sorry, can you quite gentle voice talking there?
Never done that. Thank you. Instead of doing all this PHP stuff, especially if you're not sure what you're doing, just spend the time to install WordPress on your hosting. Then configure your own computer to open your domain name from your hosting, not from WordPress.com. That's easy. At least I know how to do it with Windows. I don't know if you're using a Mac, no idea. Check this out on Google, it should be easy. So, what I mean. Your domain name opens from your new hosting. Then install whatever mean they have for installing WordPress. Use it to try to open your domain. See, it comes to an empty website, but it's still there. You have WordPress running. You'll be able to log in. You'll be able to see what's in the admin, because I assume it's different than being on WordPress.com. And then you export whatever, what the guy said, you export this file. You just contact support, say, okay, I'm a customer, help me out with this. This is my export, just import it. Don't do it for you.
Yeah, that's true. Some hosts, they will, they'll migrate.
Why I'm approaching it this way? Because WordPress has everywhere they have absolute URLs in the database. So every link that you have in your database has your domain name in it. So if you want to make sure that everything works, and you'll be the only one that is looking at it while it's broken, you'll be able to do that. When you're sure that everything works, when you found your theme, your plugins, everything is fine, then you will switch the domain name, you'll switch the DNS, and you will point it to the
Okay, does that help? Lots of options? Okay, thanks guys. The next question is from Richard Ambrose. Is he in the audience? So your question is basically you want to use current page item class when it's applied to a hard-coded menu, for instance?
Yeah, it seems really simple, but I can't. On a navigation bar, you can get it so that you can change the properties on a navigation to the existing page. But try and do that for a custom link or the sub-link of that navigation bar. Can't do it.
Is it all in the dynamic menus or?
Yeah, because it dynamically adds that class as current page to that navigation bar.
I might be able to help you with this because as far as I'm aware, current page item is kind of linked with the old wave style of how menus were created, where basically the menus were created based on your page hierarchy within the pages area of your website. Perhaps a better approach would be to use the current menu item class, because if you use a custom menu, it will, as well as still putting the current page item where appropriate, it will actually do current menu item as well, and current menu ancestor and current menu parent and stuff like that. And so because in your custom menu you can put whatever you like, then that's probably a better class to go with. So you might want to investigate that, because in certain situations current page item, it won't get applied because it might not actually be, WordPress might not think it's a page or the appropriate place. So I really think current menu item is perhaps the one you want to be looking at. In most cases, of course, where it is a page, it will be the same. But where you've got custom links, you'll find that it will set the current menu item rather, but not the page item.
Easy answer?
I hope so.
Update next time if it's not.
Yes.
Okay, and then our third question is from Tom Watts. Is he in the audience? Hi. So you gave me 3 questions. I kind of picked one, so that we're not being too greedy. But please do come to the pub afterwards and badger these guys for all the others. Tom's got a website called driftsurfing.eu. It's a mix of a WordPress and a custom build, and he wants to go full WordPress because he's a good person. Go talk. What he's wondering is, what would he do with the current page links? So he doesn't want to break the current page links. They might be a little bit different to the WordPress ones.
Right. Okay, I can see 2 ways. If I understood this right, what's the WordPress website we've got? Is that in a subdirectory at the moment?
No, it's the main directory.
That's the root. Yeah. Okay. And you've got another HTML-based site or something there.
We do large like photo features and
and they are run on PHP basically.
Okay, and that's in the subdirectory in a way, is that? was that-
Yeah, technically.
Okay, right, so doing, two ways I can see of doing this. Obviously you want to preserve, first of all, for the user experience, you want to get them to the right place.
Yeah.
Secondly, for SEO, and that's really good on there, and I'm really interested
Yeah.
in that side. What you want is you need to do what's called a 301 redirect. So it's telling the browser and more importantly the search engines that it's a permanent redirect to a new page. Two ways you can do it. There's some plugins. I can't think of the name of one offhand, but you can certainly look at the plugin.
Redirection.
Redirection.
Yeah, so
One
there-
direction.
have a look if you like. So yeah, what that plugin will do, I think if that's what I've seen before, there might maybe a few others out there. You can then type in kind of your from address and then where you want it to go on WordPress. There's some plugins, I'm not sure if this one does it, but there's some that will actually look for incoming 404 errors, and actually it flags them up to you and you can change them to go to a page as well.
So do I need to manually import all of the data and the images again and then do the redirects? Is that what?
Yes, with that method, I think. The other way I was thinking about doing this actually was with, are you familiar with a htaccess file? Okay, and the root to your website, it should be something where you've got wp-config and all the files. So the root of your installation, there should be a file and it's just called .htaccess. If you open that up and what you can do in there, I'm just trying to think of it off my head actually. You can type in basically redirect space 301 space / it's been one of responsible trying to remember this. The path without the domain name, which is the old address you want to go from, and a space, and then the full address of the where you want to go to the new, where you want to redirect people to, with the domain name included in that. I think that's what someone maybe can confirm.
And you can find that on the internet. But
Yeah, I mean, either drop me a line or just Google that. But that's where then you can actually do some kind of wildcard things. And you can say if you're literally looking to move all of those files in the same format to a similar URL but in a different direction, you can use like a wildcard asterisks kind of format to move. So that would be my preferred way. I think rather than doing a plugin, personally I'd always go with the second way because the htaccess file is going to be quicker. With a plugin, it's then got to load up WordPress, go through the functions, particularly if you've got a high traffic website, I would go for that route. Again, like I said, it sounds complicated. It is fairly straightforward, but with a htaccess file, if you make a mistake, it can take your website offline. So,
keep it back up.
Yeah, that's the advice.
Can I ask a question? I've got that. What would happen if you can't get to the original website? So you can't get access to that original website, you can't do a 301 direct.
So it's at a different URL in a way, a different domain name.
Yeah, so you change the name so it points to another hosting on the website. If you want to do the 301 links and the pages, is there any way of doing that?
But the 30, it's sort of, we're talking about here, Tom, all within the same domain name, aren't we?
Yes.
Yes. So I think that would cover it. I mean, I would say more or less the same as Mike, really. I've used the redirection plugin mentioned by Jeff earlier. That's perhaps, if you're going to do it piecemeal, then that might be the way to go. The wildcard approach that Mike mentioned is if you're going to do it all in one go. I assume, are you then going to gradually migrate all this stuff across into WordPress, or are you going to do it in one big bang?
Well, yeah, we've got a new theme in mind. We want to bring it 100% WordPress basically. It's not very
Okay.
responsive at the moment.
Yeah.
We've got these 60 odd photo features that are all
Yes.
outside of the workflow.
Right. Well, you can do, as Mike mentioned, the htaccess, but do it bang, 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 one at a time.
Okay.
So if you're not going to be able to do it all in one go, that might be the best approach. And htaccess is a faster way of doing it. The redirection plugin is good and does give you stats about who, like it will actually log the redirects if you wanted to.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we've got time for one question if anyone in the audience has a good question.
The easy one.
Yeah, someone over this side, perhaps.
No, we're all good?
I've got a question, similar to John's question earlier. Say I've got I've got two sites running the same theme. I've got a bunch of content on one and a bunch on the other one, and I want to basically get out some. I want to export just the custom, like some custom taxonomy, all the stuff in one particular. You know what I mean? All the custom taxonomy from that one and put it on the other one. How would you recommend to go about doing that?
Well, certainly the export import plugin that WordPress offers.
You do it just on
It does it on post types. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Does it do it on categories and stuff like that?
Yes.
So you can import
Or
okay.
categories
Yeah.
on both.
So that will be your way to do it. Then you know whatever you want to export. You know, whether it's just a particular custom post type or a particular category, then use
do it
that.
through that as well.
Yes,
Okay,
that's
good to know.
right. In fact, breaking it into bits, you might get past that problem about the images if it's to do with like
Right,
timeouts and
okay,
stuff
yeah,
like that. You know, and that gives you the control over doing it a bit at a time if you want.
Thanks.
Cool. Thank you guys. Let's give a hand to our experts.